Hey guys, Dan here from Big Tuna. This is the longer version for YouTubers who want to understand a little bit more about the process. Um, and what I'm going to walk you through here is this email, which I sent. They'd already sent the order, then I've sent them an email, and I'm obviously extremely frustrated at this point. And I'm like, right, here are the three things I want to clarify, right? One, written permission. Council provided written permission to live on the site. And I even, regardless if it's enforceable, this document is a fact. That's a fact. Number two, the section 109M and savings provision. Now, I'll go through this real sort of at a high level, but that it was repealed in 2018, and you ultimately had to have a DA in before 2018, and I believe you actually had to have started the construction works. Now, this works was built over a series of years, but it started well before then. It started back in 2005 or 2004, right? So I have had legal advice. This provision is in line with this building and this site, so we can use it. That's why he talks about the savings provision, which means that the rights of that bit of legislation carries forward because this was a DA and had started the commencement of the build before 2018. Now, what that legislation is real simple. You had to have a DA, and you had to have, it didn't have to say DA, you had to have a legally, basically a DA. You basically have to have a DA on the property. So lawful construction. So it's a lawful construction that's got a DA. And then you did the build, you lived in it for a minimum of 12 months. So 12 months or more. And then if that was the case, you would benefit of this act, and you have, by default, got an occupancy certificate. You're allowed to occupy it. Sort of a reverse thing. It was made, I assume this legislation existed because back in the day, people would build houses, they'd get a DAs and the CCs, and they'd build the house, and they may never finish it to get an OC, and they lived in the house, you know? So, and I reckon you'd find probably more than half the places out there don't have OCs, you know, that were built 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? They just never got around to it. Definitely stuff that was 20 years ago did not have OCs. So that's why this existed, for that very reason. I notified council at the very beginning in January, I can put that up, that someone had been living here for 20 years, and I asked council, was that permissible under that DA? Is that DA valid? And is there any issue with someone living on here? They wrote back to me, that is fine, totally fine. I asked them 3 times, no issue. So as that was the council's development and plan department, obviously I took that as Bible, that the governing body that approves development had told me in writing that it was allowed. I assumed it was allowed. I don't understand how anyone else could think that any differently. So move forward. The compliance department say you're not allowed to live there. And we then bring up this section 109M with its saving provision for this property. And they come back and say, no one has, basically they have to say, no one has lived on site for 12 months. Now, keep in mind, the building was built in stages, but the second half of the shed was still built, I believe it was 2018. Or I should say the shed was completed in 2018. And the previous owner occupied, is the word they use, this place with the intent of residing here. It's all about intent. Then he proceeded to build the caretaker's residence There was a photo taken in 2022, which was on real estate, and it shows that he had already started the build of the caretakers section. So he'd already started the build of this entire warehouse, just hadn't finished it. He has resided on the site in this building the entire time, right? He has no other address. This is where he lived. Plenty of people in the area know this. Moving forward, he keeps building his thing, you know. By the time we even see it, there's gyprock and walls and stuff, right? Like it's not amazing, but it's progressed significantly. His fridges in there, his microwaves and stuff in there, like it's, you know, it's a shacky dwelling. But under this legislation, that's okay. It's not an issue for it to be a shacky dwelling. As long as someone's dwelling, that's what it was made for. You know, the roof was on, the walls are up. I wouldn't say it was a beautiful home, but it was occupied. And that's what this legislation is all about. It's removing all that wishy-washiness and just going, right, was it occupied for a minimum of 12 months? Yes. Great. Then we purchase it and move into it. We're here for 9 months. Council are basically knocking this point back because they're saying that nobody occupied the dwelling. That's their position. Keep in mind, email to them where they, in January, confirming that someone had lived on the site, right, for over 20 years, right? The caretaker's residence was commenced back, well and truly, well before that. The individual was living here. Then we purchased it in 2024, in November. Then we lived here. So we lived here for 9 months, right? This only leaves a couple months to account for. So they're saying that the previous owner didn't live here, for 3 months in that entire process, even though they've got an email saying he'd been here for 20 years. And then here's what's crazy, is the eviction notice is saying we can't live here. So they're admitting that we live here. In January, they admitted that we'd lived here, that someone had lived here and was legally allowed to live here. So I don't understand how council can have been notified and addressed someone living on site and then evict someone for living on site, at the same time argue that nobody's lived on site. You can't argue that no one lives on site and kick someone out for living on site. That doesn't make any sense, right? And now, with all that, they've gone, no, we're satisfied. He emails me back, right? That they are satisfied with the validity of the action in response to the matter and is prepared to defend in the, it calls it LEC, which is Local Environment Court. Now, it's clear that their intent is to defend it in court. So they want to go to court. They want to take me to court over what I can only see as ridiculousness. So, the third point on here is I have BIC process. Now, that's about making the place totally legal and fine. Regardless that we, in my opinion, we already have an OC on this place. It's been occupied for more than 12 months, 20 years, but we've got an OC based on that. That doesn't mean the building was completed and that all the elements have finished. Under legislation, we have an OC, but because we've got a kiosk here and we're got all these other things going on. We want to actually finish the place and make it right. So we are actively putting all the relevant documents to get the OC for the place. We're not ignoring it. We're actively doing it. I've been working with engineers, fire engineers, electricians, plumbers, you name it. We've got them involved, BCA consultants, to make sure that we've got this place up to scratch under and is legally occupied under the current legislation for no other reason than just the right thing to do. Like, we don't have to do it under that section 109, but to do more things in the future here, we do have to do it, and we are doing it. Here's the best part. We were doing it before the compliance officers even turned up. We were already actively trying to get the BIC, Building Information Certificate, from council, and yet they still proceeded to go down this path. The reality is that council know the cost to take this to court is astronomical. It's astronomical. I'm going to put up a little fee proposal here, but you know, a lawyer's $500 an hour. I think a cheap lawyer is probably $250 an hour. And then you move forward and you've got the actual full process of the time it takes, and then you've got to get a barrister involved. So when you put that together, you'll see on this fee proposal, there's stage 1, 2, and 3. But basically, stage 1 is, you know, $15,000 to $20,000 for the lawyer. Then you need a barrister on top of that. It'll be another $5,000, right? And then it depends on how far this goes before a judge goes, council are overreaching, have gone too far, are evicting a family for no good reason, and are evicting a family out of a dwelling which has engineer certificates, electrical, hydraulic, what else we got? Smoke detectors, fire rated walls, completely safe dwelling. And under the old legislation, has an OC. That's crazy. And I believe a judge will see that and either annul it, adjourn it. And here's what's crazy. At the end of that process, I'm $20,000 poorer. Council will just keep going. That's it. The individuals who've put this order together and have said that they're prepared to take it to court, there's no skin off their nose. They just keep going. You know, their bills get paid. Their life continues forward. Yet my life is heavily punished, you know. And look, it affects my current business. It affects Big Tuna and getting it open and having this as a facility for people to hang out at. And I just think it's not right, you know. It's not right that a small business can't open a store that's going to benefit a community to help bring people together in this high stress world we live in. We're not opening a nuclear power plant here, man. Like, we're opening a place so that people can hang out. You're like spending time in the outdoors. Anyway, like I said before, I don't know if you're enjoying it or not enjoying it, but I am giving you the journey. And in the future, I'm doing this because I think in the future, you know, we'll be all opened and it'll be amazing. And people will see the journey it takes to make change and to build a small business in this country or in this council. All right, Big Tuna.